Then let's get to the session 2, the panel discussion on responsible AI and this interdisciplinary approach. Let me hand over the host to Dr. Xing.
Okay. Yes, thanks. I think we will use the next hour for panel discussion. I'd like to invite the 3 speakers and also Professor Jun Zhu, who will give a talk in the afternoon to the panel. So I think you can start your camera if you are one of the panelists. I see there are a lot of discussions, and I hope we can continue to have more discussion. Actually, I see some discussion are very deep into computer science, but I hope now let's shift a bit to interdisciplinary collaboration. As I have mentioned in my slides, and we believe that interdisciplinary collaboration is very important for this area. So now we have 2 panelists from computer science and 2 from social science. I think I will copy some topics first into the channel, and also the audience are welcome to share your questions. I just copy the 3 topics we suggested for the discussion, and but you are just feel free to propose yours. And before start, because Professor Zhu haven't given the talk yet, so I'd like to invite Professor Zhu to briefly introduce his opinion on how we can make AI responsible and what are the impact of AI. Maybe you can just use a few minutes to provide opinion, but we can look forward to your talk as well.
So I don't need to present again this afternoon. Yeah. I certainly see some overlap between what Professor Fung and actually overlaps between my talk and all the 3 presentations this morning. Obviously, let me start with the last topic. Professor Zhu's talk is highly technical, but I clearly see relevant to another very independent, separate line of thinking. Line of thinking from social sciences, but fundamentally we speak to the same issue. To look at the effects and all side effects of AI independently or actually counterfactually. And in Professor Zhu's terminology, it will be adversarial perspective. And I think it's extremely important to draw a line between effectiveness of AI and the side effects of AI. And sometimes, or most of the time right now, researchers are trying to do both at the same time or in one project. I think it's practical and realistic, but there are fundamental problems in this approach of throwing one stone at 2 birds. I think that there are fundamental conflicts of interest here. I will elaborate a little bit this afternoon. And I also, as you may see, that I started with a kind of an overview of approaches to responsible AI with a slide quite similar to Professor Fung's ecosystem that I try to identify or highlight relative stakeholders in this system or ecosystem, including not only AI makers or the researchers, the scientists, the engineers, the designers, major or minor AI companies, but also independent researchers and government regulators and beyond. And I probably will add a few more points to the division of labor of these different participants or different parties, and try to identify some of the challenges or difficulties in operating mainly, such as the funding and also data, evidence, and okay. And these are the kind of things that I have in my mind. Thank you.
Thanks, Professor Zhu. Also, actually, I'd like to, I'm not sure whether Professor Jun Zhu is here, because I see your talk is very technical on robustness and attack and defense. So yeah, if you are here, I didn't see your camera, but if you are here, I'd like to get
I'm here, yes.
further opinions on the social impact of your technology, because you didn't mention much about that in your talk. So can you explore a bit about that?
All right. Okay. So, yeah. So, I used to be technical. So, sorry for the
No problem,
technical talk. Right. Yeah. Right. So, we have related to the water robustness. Actually, we have some like practical applications. Not only like applications. So we provide so for example some tests on the socially used like technique for especially like the face recognition system. So as I highlighted in the very beginning of my talk, so we can use technique to identify the weakness of the commercial systems, and we that can maybe influence the application a lot. So for example, in the finance, there are many like services related to the face recognition. So our technique can be used to help them identify the weakness in the when they develop the system, and also we have some kind of system to protect against this kind of attack. So that's one case, one example that the technique can be applied. And recently, we also working with auto-driving system, try to again understand the weakness and also help protect the potential attacking from the real society. So that can also have like a profound impact in the in society, I guess. So we hope that the technique helps them to build a more robust system when we see the car driving on the road. Yeah. So just two cases to add.
Thanks for sharing the two cases. For the first topic, do Professor Fung and Professor Guo have anything to add besides your talks? Yeah, you're welcome.
I think what's important, I keep emphasizing that we need to collaborate together, but I feel in the last few years, like I have participated in many multidisciplinary forums, and I still feel that we don't collaborate enough cross-disciplinary. I think it's the first time, perhaps first time in my career, I've seen such a need for multidisciplinary collaboration. And for engineers, we tend to see, we ask ethicists or philosophers or philosophy students to label our data, like give us a data set of principles and so on, right? But I still don't think that's the way we should collaborate. I think it needs to be way more involved. Like this is the first time, perhaps in modern times, where technology development itself needs to deeply involve the humanists. And I'm hopeful that we can do better. but I don't see us doing too good a job yet. It's still kind of still a bit too independent, and I hope that we can work closer together. So I don't have the answer, but I think one thing is that the engineers, we're used to being trained separately from the humanists. You know, you go to law school, I go to engineering school, and we never meet. But I think today, when we train our next generation of AI developers, technologists, we need to educate them. They need to learn. We all need to learn the humanities and the arts way more. So I think our education, our training has to be more multidisciplinary, and we're not doing it enough yet. That's just comment.
Thanks, Professor. We actually have the similar observation that interdisciplinary collaboration is really difficult, although we all talk about this, but it hasn't yet really started. And I think this will leads to the next topic that we will discuss about this interdisciplinary collaboration. So maybe Professor Guo, do you have, because you come from another discipline, not computer science, do you have any similar observations? How do you think the collaboration between different disciplines really goes?
Thank you, Dr. Xie. I echo Professor Fung's observation. I think the current collaboration, certainly, I think scientists and social science people from social science humanities are trying hard to collaborate, but still on a kind of superficial way. In my field, in the field of law, I think when we think of how to make, let's use today's theme, a responsible AI, it's very often, people think of how to hold people responsible for some, negative social consequences. Should it be the scientists who came up with the original mathematical model, or should it be the engineers, the companies, the governments, or even the users? But when people think of from this perspective, we have a narrow perception of how AI has impacted our society. It's changing every relationship, yet we are still using what I call in my talk a moral agency model. So this may come from some of the thinkers from like very early years. Norbert Wiener, the founder of cybernetics, for example, he famously warned people that be careful what you wish for, you might get it. And more recently, Stuart Russell, talking about value alignment. I think this is an area I think multiple speakers today have mentioned. But this is still in this narrow model of moral agency. We should look at, as I think Dr. Xie posed the question, the profound impacts of AI technology on society. And it has caused changes almost in every relationship we have, relationship of human and machine, among humans, and even the social structures. So this all calls for our collaboration. And I hope this collaboration will deepen as our understanding continues to develop.
Thanks, Professor Guo. Actually, I see Eric posed a question. I think we should relate to you. Maybe Eric, you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I just have a question. I think the academic community has a lot of room to actually engage society at large, both with the governments and also with the press. I always tell people about the SLOMAR conference at essentially the genomic research people did back in early 70s, and they really set out the ground rules for people to look at how to do genomic research responsibly. So I was wondering whether the panelists have any comments or suggestions on how we actually make sure that the public at large is actually very much aware of what's happening, right? I mean, like recently there are a lot of news, AI generated content, for example. I think very few people are very few lay people maybe are even aware of what's possible today. So just love to hear the panel's comments, and also thanks to all the great talks this morning.
Thanks, Eric. To see who want to first respond to this.
Can I say something?
Please.
So I regard the press and the or the public as a way for us to get feedback about our work. But I also want, and as such, we need to also communicate clearly what we do. And I want to say that we all need to do so responsibly. So when we explain what we do in AI, there is a tendency to oversimplify, and there's a tendency to, to hyperbole. And of course, the media, the press, they want to sell eyeballs, right? They want people to read their stories. So they look for an angle, they look for conflicts, they look for the normal arc of story, of struggle and so on, because that makes for engaging reading. So knowing that, we need to be very careful when we talk about what we do and not give in to the temptation of hyperbole, because it's very tempting when you are always being interviewed by media and then you feel like you know everything or you know a lot, but we don't. Okay, and so I know this is not probably what you were asking about, but I just feel that when we talk, we have to be super responsible. And when we don't know something, we say we don't know. And that could, because there's a lot of noise, which is detrimental to the work. Why is it detrimental? Because the noise there, if we do not talk responsibly, it can influence the thinking of the policymakers and the regulators, and it can influence in the bad way, and then it can also mislead the public, which is even worse because that will undermine public's trust in the technology we build for them. I hear all the time mischaracterization of what we do and some kind of fear mongering, and I think that's detrimental to the trust. So I think trust is two ways. We need to communicate responsibly, and and whoever's there doing the reporting, they also need to report responsibly. But other than that, I think we should all try to explain as much as we can to the society about what we do. And I know the society tend to think of what we do in science fiction terms. So when they ask questions, we should think about why they ask certain questions. Are those questions coming from science fiction movies they have seen, coming from certain reports they have read, or coming from a different angle? So I find that to be challenging talking to the press, but it's a job we have to do, and responsibly.
Thanks, Professor Fung. Yeah, that's a very good argument that in a digital model, we ourselves also need to be responsible. Yeah, I see Professor Jonathan Zhu raise your hand, so please.
Yeah, I would like to add 3 points to the discussion so far, in particular on this term interdisciplinary collaboration. First of all, I think that the interdisciplinary collaboration involves at least 2 dimensions. Collaboration between science engineering on one side and the social sciences and the humanities on the other. The second dimension is the collaboration between the industry and the academia, which has not being explicitly explored, but I think it brings in both benefits and also challenges. It makes the interdisciplinary collaboration a lot more complicated. This afternoon I will get into a little bit about the issue of funding, for example, for the independent. Now, a follow-up point is that collaboration perhaps is definitely is needed, but it's probably just one side of the coin. The other side is the competition. I think we need to allow and also encourage both competition and collaboration. And I myself have devoted a much part of my career on collaboration and the competition of social society for decades, and I certainly have seen that both the destructive and also constructive contributions of competition to the human society, and AI, I think, is not an exception to this basic principle of cooperation and competition. And lastly, I think so far we have talked about mostly about the necessity of interdisciplinary collaboration, which is kind of a topic that people tend to agree more than disagree. But if we add how and the question of how to proceed with the interdisciplinary collaboration, and then differences or problems will emerge. And relate to a point that the audience raised just a few minutes ago, right? I think that right now we all are focused on something that can be considered as known and unknown. We try to discuss what kind of consequences, the positive and the negative of AI to the society. But so far, we have seen mostly, we know where the direction is, but we are not exactly sure the scale, the magnitude of the effect, right? But there are also unknown that we even don't know what AI may do to the society, to the ecology, to anything beyond, right? And that needs not only interdisciplinary collaboration, but also perhaps interdisciplinary debate. It's not competition. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Professor Zhu. Yeah, I think it's really important to think through all these questions for the interdisciplinary collaboration. And I also hope to discuss with all of you how we can really effectively collaborate between computer science and social science. I don't know whether you have any successful experience of collaborating between these different disciplines. Maybe we can start with Professor Jun Zhu. I don't know whether Professor Jun Zhu has any experience in interdisciplinary collaboration.
Yeah. So can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Right. So I would like to share some experience. So in Tsinghua, actually, we have multiple schools and disciplines. So naturally, we have a lot of discussions on the collaboration among multiple disciplines. So for myself, actually, I'm very interested in neuroscience. So when I started the faculty position in Tsinghua, I actually actively talk with researchers in neuroscience field. So we including faculty from School of Life Science, and also we have Brain and AI lab. So I also deeply was involved there. So for the collaboration, actually, I have some failure case and also some successful case. So at the very beginning, we just talk. We have 2 PIs. We talk regularly, like we have a weekly meeting and try to identify some project work on. But we found this not very effective. So after even like a year of discussions, so the production and the output is very little. So we found that actually. So for us, for PI actually, so we have various projects ongoing. So maybe the interdisciplinary collaboration is just one of the projects. So we cannot allocate like much of the time to one of them. So that's probably one reason for the failure of the early collaboration. But later on, actually we want to go deeper. Actually, we want to identify some project, some PhD students. We have mutual interest in both AI and the neuroscience, and this has been very effective. So like recently we have one ongoing project joined with a neuroscientist on the on continual learning. We try to draw inspiration from the brain science, like memorization, memory system, and this kind of mechanism. We try to make the AI algorithm to be more robust, especially when the data distribution changes, or you we have a new task or new data coming in. So how can we actively learn and to effectively transfer the old knowledge without forgetting? And this has been very effective in the collaboration. So I guess so the short point, the point here is that in order to effectively collaborate among multiple disciplines, we should identify some either students or junior faculty that can talk in both languages to work on the topic. So that may require like the PI in order to identify some good topic to work on. So I guess that's my kind of thought or suggestion on the interdisciplinary collaboration. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Professor. It seems bottom up is very important. We need to clearly define problem. Also, we have some junior faculty or students really working on, maybe have more time working on this. I see Professor Fung raise your hand. Yeah, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, I just want to give some examples on interdisciplinary collaboration at the personal level and also a structural level. So I am the director of the Center for AI Research at HKUST, and this is the interdisciplinary center. Basically, we are there to foster cross-disciplinary research. So in particular, 3 main directions. One is AI for health and aging, and AI ethics and governance. And the third one is AI for creativity or art. And we collaborate with specialists in these different disciplines. And at that level, I find that AI for health and aging is so far the easiest, perhaps the easiest domain to collaborate, because I think when we're still people in STEM, right? So our methodology are not very different. We write papers in similar ways. We just need to learn about each other's domain knowledge, language. So I have PhD students working with PhD students of life scientists professors, and this kind of research we tend to do. This kind of collaboration tend to pan out pretty well because we are kind of working in the same paradigm. And for the collaboration with social scientists, so the center's co-directors are include the Dean of Humanities and Social Science. So she's a humanist, and then we actually ask her to lead the efforts on AI governance and ethics, and we participate. So we follow their methodology in that case, and then we contribute what we we meaning the engineers contribute what we can, following the social scientists, philosophers' methodology. So I think the methodology and approach in each discipline is different. So to collaborate better is we need to kind of harmonize our way or learn from each other. At a personal level, with my students, the systems I presented earlier about the AI Socrates, which is the ethical quandary question answering system, we actually worked with a philosopher because we actually did not know how to even approach the problem. All right. When I presented as if we already knew from the very beginning how to do this, but actually we took a while to think about the problem, and it was not it's not an AI ethicist. We thought we are going to build an AI ethicist, and then we learned from the philosophers that this is actually a way, the Socratic approach to philosophy, which is you given a question, you talk about different perspectives rather than giving a definite answer. So that was actually quite a close collaboration with philosopher, and for better or worse, I think that was so far it's a very good collaboration in our paradigm with the humanists. So I think different problems with different types of collaboration, we need to look at what paradigm to adopt. So I'm also going to collaborate with some law professors in another university in Hong Kong, and there I think we will learn their approach, and that's the kind of thing we need to be aware of and learn from each other when we collaborate.
Yes, thanks, Professor Fung. Actually, I have a follow-up question. First, I agree that actually social science and computer science are so different. Maybe it's much more difficult to comparing with collaborate with other disciplines still in engineering, as you have said in STEM. Do you think which way is the best? We study social science, or we ask people in social science to study computer science? How do you think? Yeah, I mean, Professor Fung, yeah.
Both.
Both are good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the current education system that separates things into this kind of silo is kind of outdated. I think computer scientists need to learn social science. We have such a responsibility, right? How can we even qualify as computer scientists, like working on AI? We don't know. We don't understand the ethical and societal implication of it. I tell my students when they get a PhD, they actually getting a doctorate in philosophy. And we tend to forget that. We're not getting a doctorate in engineering, we're a doctorate in philosophy. So we need to study philosophy more. We need to study social science more. We need to study humanities more. And for the social scientists who are interested in working AI, I know they're interested in studying more AI and computer science.
Yes, thanks. Also, I'd like to hear from Professor Guo that because you are from social science, do you think people in social science can also start this collaboration? I mean, by learning computer science, for example.
Right. So thank you, Dr. Xie. So personally, when I was very young, I did learn programming. I learned one language, but sadly, I didn't continue in my college. It was very helpful when I participated in National Standardization Committee's work, talking to data scientists and mathematicians, and I learned a lot. I fully agree with Professor Fung. People on both sides should learn. I think there are a lot of unknown area, as I think Professor Zhu carefully analyzed. The public, I think Professor Fung mentioned, the journalist's way of portraying the potential of the technology and often looking for a more dramatic and fearful element that makes the story more attractive. And that's the situation. I hope there will be more collaboration so that there will be an increase of trust, both by the general public and also the public trust for scientists to do our work in the right way. And it requires both social science and AI scientists to work together and to have a better framing of the question. Otherwise, the only imagination the public could have is from some sci-fi movies that's not so close to the reality of the scientific development. There's a genuine openness, I think, for both social science and science to advance. I think it's our responsibility to work together to to exploit this openness towards a more productive direction. So there's an English saying, when you have a hammer in hand, and everything looks like a nail. I think rather, when we look at AI technology, this is not a very good metaphor, but it's only when we treat everything like a nail, we realize we have a hammer. I hope before things suffer multiple blows, we would realize what we have in hand. We would really pay attention and make the technology, understand the technology, and not to make negative impacts on society. So thank you.
Thanks, Professor Guo. I think this audience, Bing, maybe you can ask a question. Yeah, Bing, you can unmute yourself and directly.
Okay, yeah. I have a question to Professor Fung. Professor just mentioned that a PhD should basically expand his knowledge or her knowledge, basically cover more. Well, ideally, that's definitely that's what we should do. But in reality, that's really hard because when we get deeper and deeper into the degree or knowledge, we basically narrow down our knowledge to a specific field. And we hope that we can collaborate with other experts in our field, basically to do this kind of cross interdisciplinary research. But in reality, we hope that from engineering or research point of view, we hope that the social scientists or others basically give us some very clear principles that somehow are executable, so we can apply into the AI research directly. Otherwise, it's too hard. Basically, it's untractable. What's your comment?
I already said earlier that I would love nothing less than, for the lawyers, like everybody tells us exactly what to do, and we just execute, we just implement, that would be ideal, but that would never happen. Right. That would never happen. So that would never happen. It is a dialogue. It has to be. It's not even a dialogue. It's a conversation, multi-stakeholder conversation. When you say we get deeper and deeper into the technical problems, we shouldn't like miss the forest for the tree, right? We have to teach our students, like, as I said, we have PhDs. Okay, I don't know if everybody has a PhD, but a lot of researchers have PhDs. PhD programs have certain requirements. We have things called qualified exams. And I think it is increasingly important that we include in our PhD training humanist training. When I did my undergraduate degree in WE in electrical engineering, I was actually required, I did this in the US, I was actually required to take a class in ethics. I was required to write a thesis in addition to my undergraduate thesis, major thesis, a thesis in social science, another thesis in the arts. So I think the entire education system needs to be multidisciplinary. AI is a multidisciplinary field. We need to accept that. That's inevitable. So we cannot keep thinking it's a computer science and we don't have time for it. So we need to think of it as a multidisciplinary field. Now, coming back to our personal research, like what we do every day, and there are people who, even me with my students, right? I have students who are more collaborative with the social scientists, philosophers, and life scientists. There are other students who are better in doing very purely computer science theoretical work. So, but then they all collaborate. My students also collaborate together. So we all have our own strengths, and those of us who can should reach out to across disciplinary, and then others, can collaborate with those of us who are collaborating cross-disciplinary. Does that make sense? So there can be a chain of collaboration, and by transitive, we can collaborate cross-disciplinary that way.
Yeah, it makes sense, but talking across different fields, that's generally is hard. And because people are talking in different languages, more or less like a kind of foreign languages, and you want to let others to understand what I'm talking about. But generally it's hard, but in that case, we have no choice, right? But try.
No choice.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bing. Yeah, these are very good discussions. I hope we will continue this in the future, but I think we need to move on to the third topic. That's also my favorite topic. I want to learn that can research on responsible AI also can advance our understanding of human beings or society. That means can this research also help social science? Maybe I can start with one topic I see in my talk and also in Professor Fang's talk. Also, we both mentioned the value alignment. Recently, this become very hot in AI. That means can we align the goal of AI to the goal of human? If that goal cannot be mathematically defined, or it can be very vague goal. For example, the values like ethics, like fairness, even privacy. I think many of these topics are very vaguely defined. I don't know whether you have any comments on how we can really align the values of AI or and human, and how that can help social science as well. Yeah, just anyone who want to talk about this?
I think the social scientist needs to tell us how we can help social science.
Yeah. Maybe Professor Zhu, you need to unmute. It seems you are talking. Yeah. Professor Zhu, I think you should unmute yourself.
Very quickly, I think this is going to be a very difficult or challenging question because there are multiple value systems competing a lot in the society across the world. And so to align with the AI, to one value system is easier, but to align with different or contradicting value systems, it's almost empty question.
So do you think in social science, or as being already asked, it seems we need an interface. We need to define the problem. Do you think the values in social science or other disciplines have been already or could be clearly defined so that computer scientists can use that as a guide to design algorithms?
Yes, by and large, yes, it's different. The kind of the most popular, or maybe not just in terms of popularity. There are at least 3, 4 different clear-cut, fundamentally different value systems, and the difference is the specific characteristics of these systems have been by and large clearly identified, and now maybe it's not immediately obvious to data scientists or to data scientists, because most of those ideas are expressed in books rather than journal articles. So the standard academic search engine may not but the coverage of it. Not this is phenomenon by itself. It's indicative of the challenge where to find that resistance. For me, or maybe even to Professor Foray, it's an obvious straightforward question, but for I guess for many colleagues on the technical in the technical community, really try hard to find why. Just because of the differences in values of applications. But beyond these kind of practical issues, I think that we probably can, what we can do is to put differences on the table, make differences to be crystal clear to all the participants on both sides, not to kind of try to solve the differences immediately. I think that those differences will last for long, but at least we know where the differences are, and then try to see if there is any way to develop a more kind of adaptive technology to deal with the differences. I think that's probably one of the most important research questions, and also practical questions for AI industry.
Yeah, any else want to share? Thanks, Professor Zhu.
I actually have a question. I just wonder, we're talking about responsible AI, the impact of our systems, right? I wonder whether there's in social sciences, there's a methodology for you to test out a system design before we commit to implementation. So, these days, we always come up with new systems or new AI systems, new functionalities, and we just release them. And then after the fact, we find out, oh, these are the impact, it can be biased, can be so on and so forth. And then we go back and try to fix it, right? Now, I wonder if there's a way we can actually, before we release anything, we can test it or have some methodology in collaboration with the social scientists to kind of foresee some or assess the risk before we release something as part of our, a process of AI system release or model release. We try very hard to try to, computer science, you try to self-regulate, right? We try to come up with metrics to measure, but maybe we need to go further. We need to go, we need to test out at the society level in some way, in some methodology. If we can assess the risk better, maybe we can, do our job better.
I think the answer is yes and no. Yes, the methodologies are ready, are available. I guess the name of this type of methodology is called evaluation research, which is existing established subfields in many disciplines across the social sciences. It's not humanities. Then I say no because AI is so new, and most people who have engaged in evaluation research have not really spent time with AI in particular. But theoretically and logically, it can be done, but has not been done yet. So if you will ask me to give you concrete examples, I would say there's very little, if any. But in terms of the methods, in terms of the procedures, it has been there.
Yeah, it's also, I think, quite related to your talk in afternoon about evaluating the responsible AI system. Actually, I also have a related question to Professor Guo about privacy. I think we have a lot of recently we have a lot of regulations or laws defined in China or maybe global about how to protect user data privacy. From us, I see many of these are quite ambiguous. Even GDPR or Chinese laws, sometimes difficult to execute. how to think about this.
Thank you, Dr. Xie. So yeah, I agree. The term privacy, I think, as a legal concept, it first appears in the U.S. As a constitutional right, the right of privacy. And interesting enough, this claimed constitutional right of privacy, the term never appeared in U.S. Constitution. So it was a judge interpreted concept. And of course, over the past century, the meaning of privacy has changed because of different social situation and technological development. So protecting privacy is, I think, it really depends on other issues. So the problem for any meaningful decision is that it's always connected to other decisions. Sometimes I think maybe the first AI system is kind of the legal system, a rule-based system. We kind of wanted to entrust it to make decisions that may be so difficult in a time of political turmoil and other scenarios. But as history has already shown, the hope for us to entrust the decisions to the legal system, very often we encounter limits. I think today when we look at the problem of AI decision making, it's not completely new. In the past, legal system had actually a lot of judges and lawyers and the police and prosecutors, human beings to assist to implement it. Still, we find so many problems, and these can be can show in the problems of like racial discrimination. So we want computer algorithm to make major decisions, and there's no human assistance, then it's only natural we see all kinds of problems associated, limitations and problems associated with it. So yeah, so like in the difficult issue of privacy, in fairness, and a lot of other problems we see from AI decision making, I think we still have a long way to go before we can like entrust the AI system to make decisions.
Thanks, Professor Guo. And I think we just have a few minutes. If the audience have any questions, you are welcome to directly unmute yourself, or you just raise your hand. Someone asked, speaker, could you share the slides? Yeah, but I think, yeah, we can. Oh, sorry for that. Anyway, it's I think we can maybe use the remaining 5 minutes to summarize. And we have talked about a lot about interdisciplinary collaboration and how different areas can help each other. And also, I think we have seen many different topics here. Maybe I'd like to invite each of you to maybe give some suggestions for interdisciplinary research, or maybe someone just on top of your mind. How about we start with Professor Jun Zhu?
As someone who has spent a lot of time in interdisciplinary research, my current job is interdisciplinary. I spend half of my time as social scientist and the other half as data science. And I clearly see the benefits and also challenges for interdisciplinary research. The best kind of strategy I think that I've learned over the years is to engage kind of a bottom-up approach. approach other disciplines or we respond to invitations from other disciplines. So whenever there is a real need, instead of trying to catch some bandwagon, try to do interdisciplinary research for the sake of interdisciplinary research. If we did that, the results are either non-sustainable or not desirable.
Yes, thanks. So another Professor Zhu.
Yeah, so I focus on the technical development. So I mean, so interdisciplinary research is collaboration is really important. So including the technical development. So so in my research, we have spent a lot of attention on the on collaborating with other disciplines. So as mentioned, especially the neuroscientists. So the main motivation is try to develop kind of like a more robust or more generalizable AI techniques. So I learned a lot from the current the today discussion. So especially the from the social science and other and also laws. So by overall, I still think so, including like my experience with like industry applications. So when they ask for solutions for them for robust or even like a responsible AI techniques. So we look at the toolkits. Actually, we still are far from that goal actually. So I would say so in the so we should maybe give more attention, more patience or time for the for producing better like AI techniques. So that may need the whole society to have I mean to correct view on this on the technical progress. We shouldn't like impact much more like if the technical cannot provide. So that may result in some like disappointments in the society. So yeah, that probably my last two words.
Thanks. Yeah, Professor Fung. I just random picked the order. Yeah, Professor Fung.
So I'm a big proponent of interdisciplinary approach to AI, and in general, in particular, RAI, so responsible AI. The previous professors have, the two Professor Zhu's have already given very good, advice on how we can do this. Be patient. And be responsible. So what I want to say is, again, I want to speak to the students who are currently doing AI studies, from undergraduate to PhD students, that this is the time to study in an interdisciplinary way. It is time to study beyond computer science, beyond STEM, and take more classes in philosophy, in ethics, in social science, and in the humanities, so that you can do better research and then you can make more progress in AI in terms of AI technology. It's not just about AI applications, but the core technology. So we need more interdisciplinary training of the students.
Thanks. Finally, Professor Guo.
So I teach a class at the AI school of Renmin University, the ethics and governance of AI. So as a teacher, I think besides passing the knowledge in ethics and law to students, my main mission is to raise awareness. And awareness being, I think, very often scientists and engineers limit their role to executing other people's decisions or kind of accepting kind of the limitation that maybe people from social science, from regulators, kind of given to the scientists and engineers. I think scientists and engineers in AI field should rather start to participate in framing the issues and participating in defining the nature of problems. And only in that scenario we could have a deeper understanding of the issues and enjoy more freedom in the space of the technology given to human society. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. I think it's almost time up. And I'd like to thank all the panelists, especially Professor Fung and Professor Guo. I know it's very late evening as you are in US. So thank you so much for taking the time to attend this. We all learned a lot. And also thanks all the audience for participating in this, all the online and from Bilibili and the teams. And we also have another 2 sessions in the afternoon. So just welcome to come back after 2 hours. So thank all. And I think that's all for the morning session. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for inviting
Thank
me.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.